Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 10 time-saving tips for IBM scheduling, coming to you from beautiful Eden Prairie, Minnesota here in the US. Thanks for joining us. So today what we're going to do is discuss why it's even more important now to wrap automation around workload management on IBM and perhaps even extend that to the rest of the servers that support the business. We'll also be talking in the context of some specific successes that our customers have seen and have shared with us. My name is Chuck Lisinski. I am the Director of Technical Solutions here at Help Systems, 20 years in various roles here, from professional services, support, pre-sales, and 30 years on IBM and 20 years of webinars, Tom.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Well, Chuck, too, you're selling yourself short a little bit. You're also the local president of Q User, which is our IBM user group here in Minneapolis. And Chuck and them bring presentations and topics all the time. I think next month or this month, you're doing an SQL topic, and you don't have to be in Minneapolis anymore. They can join you remotely, right, Chuck?
Yeah, thanks for that plug, Tom. Go to quuser.org. There's a membership tab, very reasonable. And if you join now, it's actually a 2-year membership. Due to the current situation, we've decided to extend our memberships for an additional year, so it's a good value. And this month we're having an SQL workshop, 2 hours each day. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So maybe you're located somewhere outside in a remote world, you can join quuser.org. Awesome.
Yeah.
Tom Huntington here. I'm our EVP of Technical Solutions at Help Systems, and been with Help for a little over 30 years. And Robot Schedule, love talking about Robot Schedule. I am an ex-user of Robot Schedule before I came to Help Systems back on the system 38 days. So that goes back a ways. I'm also today a 5-year running IBM Power Champion. So I do a lot with the market and promoting what's going on with power in IBM. That's me, Chuck.
All right. Well, there you go.
So yeah, the robot product line and the robot solution, something that has happened over the last 3 decades and more, actually, when we think about Robot Schedule back on the system 38 days. So today's scheduling, of course, IBM centric is Robot Schedule. We can do enterprise scheduling by providing agents on Windows, Unix, and Linux from Robot Schedule, of course. And that gives us that capability to reach out to other platforms, SSIS packages, if you know what I'm talking about there, Linux scripts. We can do robotic process automation from here. We can integrate with our own Automate products. If you have people asking about RPA or robotic process, we do that standalone, or we can integrate that with Robot Schedule. And of course, we're not afraid of Unix or Linux from IBM, so we can do those kinds of things too with scheduling. And for those with E1 or SAP, we can also integrate with those products too. Awesome.
All right, Tom, let's start with a little participant interaction. We're going to launch a polling question. The question is, during these unprecedented times, where are you struggling the most? Is it remote access to IT functions, getting end user reports distributed, coordinating batch activities across all servers, security concerns with remote access, monitoring our servers remotely, and so forth?
You know, the interesting one there to me, Chuck, is the getting end user reports distributed, or really, paperless, going paperless in a time where we don't have people in the office. How are you getting invoices and purchase orders and all those things done if you weren't set up to do something automatic in that regard? I think that's something that probably caught a lot of people by surprise. I think.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an area that has typically been estimated by some administrators and business process folks out there.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Got enough time on that polling question?
I think we do. I'm gonna close that and we'll share the results. And interesting results. So looks like about 2/3 of our respondents say remote access to IT functions. So think of like swapping a tape during a backup, right?
Yeah.
Getting end user reports distributed, and of course security concerns. Yeah.
Yeah, the tape one's interesting. I had a customer just the other day email me and say, we really don't have any tape tracking in place, and now that we're totally remote, it's presenting a little problem for us. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yep,
Let's take a look at Robot Save. right?
Yeah. Okay, and speaking of taking a look at things, let's take a look at our agenda. Short agenda today, we're going to look at 10 time-saving tips, and these come right from our customer base. So some success stories around that and some discussion. And then we're going to jump into a short live demo of the technology.
Sounds good. Well, let's just get started right into the number 10 item on the list, mobile access to job scheduling. And, a story from Borg Warner, more systems in the automotive industry downloaded, they installed the Insight technology. Insight is free technology from Help Systems. It runs on a Windows or Linux server and gives us the ability to access robot schedule through a browser. Two reasons I could see you wanting this. One, you have developers who you've always wanted to give them access to Robot Schedule. You didn't want to set up the security in Robot Schedule, and you need kind of a read-only access. The browser technology works good for that. They can see all their jobs, their history, when things are going to run. And then for the administrator or the operations team on the go, this gives you remote access through a browser interface that will fit on your cell phone. It'll fit on your iPad, your Samsung Galaxy, whatever technology you might be using. You can run basically robot schedule from there and see what's going on. And here we're showing the flow charts, and I think Chuck's going to show that live in a little later moment here.
I am, and true story, I was sitting on a plane, had to put a robot job on hold for one reason or another, and I fired up my Insight interface and was able to do that from my little iPhone sitting on an airplane.
You're a pilot. You're cheating, right? You're in your own little airplane, I think, Chuck.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, so these aren't necessarily in order of significance, but so we're kind of counting backwards from 10. We're on number 9, batch job visibility for operations. So I think of, for instance, the native job scheduler or application schedulers that are out there and not really knowing what's going on. So one of our success stories here from Heartland Financial is something called the Schedule Activity Monitor, which is part of both the robot graphical interface and the Insight web interface. So to provide visibility into exactly what's happening, we give you this interface called SAM, which in 3 columns shows you, first of all, what will be running from your robot job schedule, what's currently running, or if it has a problem, there'll be an indicator. And likewise, in the right-hand side, it shows you what's completed for the last day or 2, depending on what your preference is. And from here, we can easily see we had an issue with the job. Hopefully we had robot alert in place and we got notified. And from this interface, it's very easy to drill right into the diagnostics that are associated with that occurrence of the job running, or potentially even rerun the job directly from this interface. So, and Tom, what I love about this is easy to use. You don't have to know the green screen. We got a lot of new people coming into the industry. So point click, right click, double click, etc. It just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And you can even expand each one of those tabs and see more details. So Chuck's just showing you the summary view, but there are more details up there. That's an awesome number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Quickly migrate from native job scheduler. And actually, we actually have migration from AJS. We have migration from work job schedule entry, and we have the ability to learn, submit jobs. And we can also import, export jobs. So Robot Schedule now for years has had a built-in conversion from AJS or the native scheduler. We can read in some of the jobs or part of the jobs to help you get implemented. And if you're somebody out there with a long, big CL, we can actually learn all the submit jobs from there too with the Robot Start Learn feature that's been in the product for many, many years. So if we go on to the next slide, the other thing that people have used over the years is the import export. You can do import export commands from a green screen, but in the GUI, we have the ability to right click on a job and we can export this to XML versus exporting it to a IBM library and doing a save file. You can just basically like copy it to your clipboard. Let's just call it that. And then I can go to my other IBM partition, load up the GUI over there, and then I have an import feature. So I can import all the properties of my robot schedule job. Very handy and something that Heartland Financials definitely was using.
Yeah, and what I love about this, Tom, is in this case, we requested to export just one job, and everything
Mhm.
associated with that job, the calendars, the environments, the Opal objects, and so forth, just come along with it. They get dragged along. You don't have to think about it.
How long has the GUI been in Robot Schedule, Chuck?
I want to say 15 years,
Yeah.
almost,
Yeah,
in that area.
2006, this version, but there actually technically was a GUI before that even. So,
Yeah,
but this
yeah.
particular Java version's been around since 2006.
Yeah, yeah, and that feeds right into number 7, is diagnostics and historical data.
Mm,
So
right.
from the graphical interface, and this is something Robot's been doing for a long time, and this comes from Farm Credit Bank of Texas. And so we're looking at job tracking. We're looking at drill down into things like spool files, job logs, QHIST, directly from the interface. Whether the job is live or the job is completed, as long as the log information still, or the job log or QHIST information still exists on the system, we can get that. And even after all that's long gone, Tom, we still have an audit trail of what it ran, did it complete normally, how long did it
Sure.
take, when did it start, when did it end, and so forth.
And we have
Fantastic
things
audit
like the
trail.
Good Morning Report. We have filtering in here. You can filter this. And also, we use all APIs in the background. So job exit APIs. So we can literally track not only all your robot schedule jobs, but any end user submitted job. And you can actually do dependency processing based on those end user submitted jobs. And there's also even a feature called submit delay model job for actually delaying end user jobs you don't want running during the day. Some very cool advanced features in there that we don't talk enough about. Okay, moving on to number 6 on the list. Programming for cross-platform dependencies. Everybody I know listening today only has IBM I, right? Well, no, of course not. You have Windows, you have Unix, you have Linux. Matter of fact, one of my calls this morning from one of our staff members is what's Robot Schedule Enterprise? So I said, well, it's basically Robot Schedule extended out to your Windows, Unix, and Linux servers. And we have the ability, again, to control through this Java agent. We can monitor files being created, directories getting to a certain size. We can monitor a process or a daemon or a service over there. And those can all be dependencies for running jobs in Robot Schedule. So no more guessing games, no more fighting with the Windows or Linux team about whose fault it was. Let's put an agent over there. Let's control that environment and let's run it from our most reliable server and scheduling tool called Robot Schedule. And it's called Robot Schedule Enterprise. And we also have integration with Automate and a few other things. So if you haven't seen it for a while, take a look.
All right, we'll be talking about that today during the live demo as well. And so here's a quandary, and that is the 5250 green screen. Nobody uses that anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
No, very common out there, and a lot of applications, whether ERP or invoicing, billing, financials, and so forth, there's still a lot of green screen out there. So automating that world is something that Waco Media was able to conquer, and that was through what's called Robot Replay. Robot Replay is an add-on or extension for Robot Schedule that records the 5250 data stream. So basically records all the various menus and menu options that you go through to run a process on IBM I. And it memorizes the locations of the fields on the screen so that they can be populated. And they're populated with robot substitution variables. So
Right.
once that process is complete and we record it into a file, it can then be just added into a robot job stream, just like your regular batch processes.
You know what makes it unique too that people don't realize and they take it for granted? We actually keep a pulse on every batch job that's submitted out of those interactive processes. So if we run it into any submit jobs, though we call them sibling jobs or child jobs, and that all becomes part of the reactive job or the dependencies. So there's a lot of value in that because it's, you can't do dependency processing if there's still stuff out there running that was submitted through these green screens. And that's quite honestly where some of the RPA products and stuff kind of fall down, right? So,
Good point. Yeah,
all right.
yep, the child jobs. Yeah.
Sorry to jump in on you.
No sweat.
You
I'm
can
glad
jump
you
in on
did.
mine too. Programming parameters. Obviously, You need to call a program and pass in parameters. Years and years ago, we created a thing called reserve command variables. If I were to rename that today, it'd be called dynamic parameters. And Cone Drive has used it for years to be able to globally pass in the same processing date or business date into all of their jobs by using the ADAT, in this case, PROC-DTM1, which is today's date -1 versus today's date. And then you can see it down on the bottom. We're testing those variables out, and we can actually see if this job were to run on March 16th, actually March 17th, it would show up that way. And Chuck, thank you for just updating those. And yeah, so dynamic parameters, reserve command variables, you can modify them on the fly. They can be dynamic by calling a program, or they can be static by you supplying a value that you want to put into a reserve command variable. It's a very popular part of the product, and your developers will love it.
Yeah, and this takes care of that issue where you cross the midnight boundary, so you want the same date before and after midnight, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about adjusting the run schedule. And so the problem here is, we all have holidays and bank holidays and plant shutdown and things like that. So how do you build that into your schedule? Well, in a lot of cases, for instance, if you're using the native scheduler or application schedulers, you have to go in and you have to put jobs on hold, and then you have to worry, well, what's going to get missed, what needs to run. So what you can do in Robot Schedule is you can build your own calendar, and that calendar can reflect various requirements for bank holidays or plant shutdowns or what have you, and associate those with one or multiple jobs. And automatically what Robot's going to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to just not run on that day, or you can tell it to run after or before automatically. If you're on a fiscal calendar where your fiscal period end dates need to reflect into your schedule, you can build a fiscal calendar as well. And then also, as part of the job run, we have service level agreement type monitors built into your job execution, where we can notify you or at least log that a job is run long, run too quickly, or didn't get started on time. Tom, any comments about this?
Yeah, well, with calendaring, most customers maybe have one or two calendars, a fiscal calendar and a standard calendar. And then the other part of it is that you can automate the automation of switching the calendar. So we have built into Robot Schedule some commands that you can run called switch calendar, and it will actually, you could run that on the last day of the year and switch to your new calendar. As you can see, we're 2020 here. When you get close to 2021, obviously you want to have different holidays and different fiscal cutoffs, and we give you a way of automating that too, so you don't have to be there to do it.
Yeah, I just showed one of our clients in America how to use the switch calendar option, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, right. So speaking of scheduling and moving on with that, one of the issues you have with some of the other scheduling tools is you have to go out and modify them, and especially if you have your own CLs, you have to go out and modify. Robot just lets me sleep at night, according to one of our good friends at Staples, and it just continues to run your schedule. It doesn't get sick, doesn't take holidays, runs on and on and on. So advanced scheduling options, weekly scheduling, we can run something every week, last Friday of the month, certain times of the day, certain week numbers, say certain day numbers. We can do specific dates if we want. We can do incremental or every, where you can do something every 10 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 5 minutes. I think that's even smaller now. It's every 1 minute if you want. With or without dependencies, we can, again, to Chuck's point earlier, run before and after, skip holidays. And then if you want, we also have a feature called Opal, and we can go out and check system resources. Like in this example, we're checking the value in a data area as part of the schedule. Some advanced scheduling. Hopefully you don't have to do that with every one of your jobs. I've kind of always lived with the KISS principle when it comes to scheduling, is keep it simple, right? Try to keep it as simple as possible. And I won't add the last part, so that's too offensive.
Exactly right. Thank you, Tom.
We'll keep it just as a KISS today.
Tom, that brings us to number one.
Yes.
Dependency processing. Yeah, so we're talking about streamlining your workflow. So instead of, and I've seen this at some sites where every single job on the system is discretely scheduled. And then they
Yeah.
have to go in and say, okay, where can I fit this job in? I have more work to add. It becomes very difficult. So with dependency processing, it's much, much easier to add a job in the middle, and basically what you're doing is you're setting up dependencies either with other robot jobs outside of robot. Tom mentioned we can have dependency processing with jobs that run outside, completely outside of robot, but we're still tracking those in robot. We can react to processes running outside of IBM native or external file events. So for instance, maybe you're waiting for a file to be sent into a directory in the IFS. That's something that the process is dependent upon. That can be added into the process rather than discretely scheduling a process to happen at a particular time. Tom, comments?
These are, reactivity and dependency processing is where you're going to make the most up in your schedule.
Yeah.
I used to say people going from a manual schedule to an automated schedule would probably cut out, 40% of your batch runtime, if not maybe higher than that. Going from what you described as time-oriented type scheduling to a event-driven scheduling will probably take another 20% out of your nightly processing, especially if you start doing cross-system dependencies and get rid of those timer jobs and quit pointing at each other and saying whose fault was it, right?
Yeah, that dead time in between jobs
Yeah,
that
you
were
can. Let's
scheduled.
just, I snap my finger. That's how fast it is. It just continues to go, right?
Exactly. Well, Tom,
Faster than I can snap my fingers.
let's do a little live demo. Okay.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's the
So
Chuck show.
yeah, well, it's the robot schedule show, and what you're looking at here
Okay.
is the GUI interface for robot schedule, and I'm connected to a system called Wisdom. Let me get my pointer back here. Okay. So just for example, I want to show you, first of all, the number of jobs I have on this system. So there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And just looking at this list, I'm not getting a lot of visibility into the jobs, but I can slice and dice this a couple different ways. So I have attached Windows, Linux, and AIX agents. So rather than looking at all jobs now, for instance, here's agent jobs that are going to run on this particular Windows server, all right, or this particular Windows server. Okay, so now we're looking at a subset of those jobs. I can look at jobs, for instance, by application. So for instance, what jobs are associated with my accounting process? What jobs are associated with my backups? All right. And so let's drill into things a little bit more. Let's look at a job flow diagram. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is built off of my accounting process, which really the central part of that is my nightly processing. And my nightly processing has certain prerequisites. All right. So for instance, I have my daily backup. And if I'm interested in knowing what's going on with my backup, for instance, I can simply drill into what's called the job completion history, and I can see how long the job ran, did it complete normally, and from here I can drill into things like spool files, job logs, and so forth. So for instance, if I want to read the reports associated with any one of my processes, I could do that. Okay, so that's a prerequisite for my nightly process, as is, for instance, a file transfer. And in this case, this is a file event that's going to happen out on a Windows server. And so I'm setting up a dependency here where I'm waiting for a electronic funds transfer to be placed into this directory on my C drive on this particular agent server.
And notice you're doing that in between a certain time of the day too.
Yeah. So I'm only looking at that during date hours. So for instance, just to show you some flexibility, if I add a job here, and what I'm looking at is, let's say I need to add a account reconciliation process after my weekly account reconciliation. All right, so I'm going to add that job, and I'm going to go into the properties of the job, and I'm going to make it dependent on my weekly account reconciliation. All right, this is a robot job, and there it is. All right, let's save that. All right, now you can see we have a dependency between that, and in fact, this downstream job won't run unless the previous job completed normally, and you can set up different status types to react to. All right, look interesting, Tom, so far?
Yeah, very interesting. I'm assuming
Okay,
you can
well
do more. You can do more, can't you?
we can do a lot more, and what I wanted to show is insight. So this is robot schedule in a web interface supported by what's called Insight. Insight is our web technology, and it actually supports a lot of different technologies here in the Help Systems product line, both robot and power tech, automate schedule, password self-help, etc. In our other product lines, both IBMI and non-IBMI. And because it's browser technology, of course, you can set up marks. And what you're looking at here is just an overview of two of my partitions showing me the status, the last 6-hour status of my robot schedule across two partitions. Here I've got my critical jobs list, all right? So if I'm more interested in just focusing on certain jobs out of my long job schedule list, I can look at my backup jobs, for instance. I can go into the completion history or job monitoring. And then I have the schedule activity monitor. The schedule activity monitor is something that's part of both the GUI and the green screen. This is the visibility into what's happening with your robot job schedule, showing you in 3 columns what will be running, what is running, and what's completed. And if I just scroll down here, you can see, oh, look at that. I did have a termination here. Hopefully I got notified by that with robot alert. And the power here is I can drill right into, for instance, the job log for this particular process. And I'll also be able to create a live job flow diagram. So here's my job log. You can see I'm waiting on a message. All right. And I'm going to go one step further now, Tom. I'm going to drill into a job diagram. So what's going to happen now is Insight is reaching back into robot schedule, and it's pulling back all the dependency processing associated with this job. So what's upstream or downstream from this process? Well, I can tell you. All right, so here's my process. It was dependent upon my nightly process. And by the way, my nightly process has more dependencies. So now I'm just going to explode that out further and further. So one question we have is, Tom, what does it cost for one of our customers to acquire this technology?
Insight is free. It is part of the Help Systems product offering, and you'll see Robot in here. You'll see some Power Tech products. You'll see Go Anywhere. You'll see a few others, and then we also can use it as a deployment tool, so we can actually deploy products from here, dashboards. You know, we'll be adding one of the things we'll be doing next is adding our HA product to here, Robot HA, so you can get a dashboard that shows you status of your role swaps, that kind of thing. So fun stuff. And Robot Schedule's been in here for quite a while.
Yeah. Okay, Tom, that brings us to our last polling question. And the polling question is, how can Help Systems
How
help
can we help you?
you? Yeah. All right.
What's
So
an
first,
automation assessment, Chuck?
automation assessment is a guided process, meaning that somebody's going to be on the other side of the phone from you, and we're going to walk you through 36 distinct questions about 5 areas of IBMI automation.
Got
All right.
it.
Tom, what's a tech update?
Tech update, technology update. Basically what we do is Chuck or I or some other team member, depending upon what your experiences or what products you use from Help Systems, we'll take you through an hour discussion around what's on our roadmap and what's new with the products that you own and what Help System has been up to. Usually ends up being one of the best meetings that we have with our customers, and we do those all the time throughout the year. Probably last year, I think we did somewhere around the neighborhood of 600 of those. So love to spend an hour with you just kind of talking about what's new at Help Systems, but then also hear what's on your roadmap and things that you're looking for. It really is beneficial for us too.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna close up now. I'm gonna leave the poll open just for a minute, and I just want to say that this is a recorded presentation, so if there's somebody else in your organization who you think would benefit by watching this, feel free to send them the link. We would love to get them up to speed on this technology, and hopefully, we can provide some benefits for your organization.
Yeah, now would be a good time for some questions too. As we wrap up today, just to kind of remind you that Help Systems, we can help you with your a lot on IBMI, backup and recovery, high availability, document management centered around IBMI, cybersecurity. You want to move to the next slide, Chuck?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cybersecurity, monitoring and alerting, of course, business intelligence, capacity planning. If you're getting a new system, we can help you out with making sure you get the right size system. And then, of course, automation, as we talked about, scheduling. And we've been doing automation for forever. It's
We
really
have,
a
yeah.
core competency at Help Systems, and we have a lot of great support people that can help you out. So, any questions out there?
Tom, we are just a little past the bottom of the hour, and one question that I'm going to follow up with after we close the webinar. At this time, though, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I want to say we really appreciate you spending some of your day with us. Tom, any closing thoughts?
No, you won't regret going to Robot Schedule. It's a great product, and if you have any questions or you want to spend a time with one of us, we'll certainly walk your team through and help you see Insight and or Robot Schedule. We do that all the time. Love to
Yeah,
help you out.
exactly. Well, appreciate it, everybody attending today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Thank you.